Our issue segment tonight, President-elect Trump finally found a spot for former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani in his administration. The former mayor was once one of Donald Trump's most high-profile surrogates during the campaign. He publicly vied for the spot of Secretary of State in Trump's administration, but appeared to be dropped from Trump's inner circle after discussing his ambitions on television in the middle of his negotiations with Trump. Now President-elect Trump is bringing him back on board, this time to serve as a trusted friend and advisor on all things cybersecurity. With me now, attorney and cybersecurity expert Lisa Garber. Lisa, thanks for being here.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
All right, Lisa, let me ask you about Rudy Giuliani here. He's going to be serving in the position of advisor on cybersecurity. I don't think any of us really know exactly what that position will entail, but let me get your reaction to critics' reaction first, because critics are asking basically, what does Giuliani even know about cybersecurity?
Giuliani does have a background in this. He's a lawyer by trade, but he's not a techie, so techies aren't thrilled about this. But he is actually chair of the cybersecurity department at a major law firm in the U.S. He also has his own consulting company on security issues. Some of them are more criminally related, but he's definitely worked on some security issues in the past.
All right, well, let me ask you this just pretty bluntly here. As an expert in the field yourself, is he a good pick for this role?
Hard to say. It's hard to say. My first reaction wasn't the strongest positive. I'm trying to say it as diplomatically as possible.
No, we want to hear your honest opinion here.
I think he has the skill set. He's definitely looking at it from a risk management perspective. He's looking at it from an attorney's perspective. He has to know the right questions to ask for this landscape. I think he understands what the cyber threats are, but he better surround himself with the right people that have that expertise.
Right, because like you said, he's not a techie. I mean, we all know that. I don't even think he'd claim those skills himself. Lisa, let me ask you this. Morgan Bright, he's a noted cybersecurity expert. He said as a nation, particularly when it comes to national security, we're doing okay on offense when it comes to the cyber war that's being waged against us, but our defense is terrible. Do you agree with that?
I think we need to work on both our offense and our defense. I think this is the battleground in this modern age. So we need to bulk up our defenses and our offensive procedure. Right now, there are major risks. The cyber threat landscape is constantly evolving. The United States as a whole, whether it's the government or the private sector, is under attack every second of every day, and that can't be downplayed enough. That can't be overplayed enough. At this point, I think some people are trying to downplay it, but we see now the different attack vectors that are threatening the U.S. We need better offense and better defense.
Well, in layman's terms here, and remember, I don't know much about cybersecurity, but tell us, what have we been doing here? I mean, we've been under attack. We know, even we the people, the civilians who are not privy to this classified information, we know we've been under attack by Russia for at least a year, at least since last August, or August of 2015, I should say, when Russia hacked the Joint Chiefs of Staff's email. What has the U.S. been doing since then to try to prevent this?
The U.S. in and of itself has been under attack for years. This has gone on for a long time, whether it's Russia, it's also China. There are also people working from within the United States. So it's malicious actors, it's people inside. The United States is definitely gathering intelligence. We have the top talent. We have the ability to gather that data and really sort through it. But it's going to take a lot more people, a lot more dedicated staff and timing. Right now, we have to look at what those threat vectors are and really analyze them. We have the intelligence gathering. We have all of that data. It's super voluminous. And we've definitely been looking at what threats are coming up. And these major hacks that have gone on, the OPM hack, which was actually from China, affected 22 million people. These are huge numbers, and they're just going to rise. So the U.S. has those offensive procedures in place. We have to bulk them up and take advantage of the intelligence that we're collecting every day.
Right, and I guess now's the time to do it if there ever was a time. Lisa, last question before we go here. FBI Director James Comey just revealed that the DNC never actually allowed the FBI to access their server or John Podesta's device, his phone device. They specifically did not. Now, I'm not trying to play the doubter here, but I know I want to know. I think a lot of my viewers want to know here. If the FBI did not have access to these servers, these devices, to look at the codes themselves, how do they know it was the Russians?
Exactly. And this has been a huge topic of debate, especially in the digital forensics industry. You want those devices, and they're saying a third party looked at them. But if the FBI didn't get their hands on them, I'm not necessarily trusting it. And at this point, There are no smoking guns pointing to Russia. At least the public hasn't seen them. And if they actually didn't get to firsthand forensically review those devices, how can they say that there are?
Right, because I also heard reports, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, but I heard reports that it was actually an outdated Ukrainian code that was used or that was found on this server by that third-party organization, not the FBI, and that it wasn't the more sophisticated or the modern code that's more Russian at this time.
What they're saying they found is a piece of malware, which is a type of virus that was written in the Ukraine. And it was, as you said, it was extremely outdated. That was one piece of their findings. There are so many aspects to a digital forensics investigation and analysis. That was one piece. It definitely doesn't help that it's Ukrainian and not Russian to help point the finger. But at this point, the public just doesn't have enough information, and that's part of the problem.
Right. I honestly, from a political standpoint, I can't believe the DNC or John Podesta wouldn't allow the FBI to look into these servers. It makes me suspicious on a whole other slew of issues, which we don't have time to talk about today. Lisa, thank you so much for being here. It was great to talk to you. All right, guys, our next tipping point with Laura Loomer. U.S. government officials helping illegal Syrian immigrants use fake passports. Stick with us. That one's straight ahead.